this is probably as good a time as any to ask you about like Wheaton, Maryland.
Yeah, I remember Barry Richards. I was the one who discovered Barry Richards, as far as I'm concerned, and put him on my mailing list. And he was down in Gaithersburg, Maryland. I think that's where it was. The station was in the cornfield somewhere. I had to drive all back out in the country to find this station. And I think it was WHFS or something like that, right? HMC, whatever it was. I know Barry Richards was a rock jock, and I drove way out in the boondocks through cow pastures and shit to get to him. And I get out there, he didn't have no Atlantic records, So I gave him like Led Zeppelin and all these records. This is before Zeppelin was touring there and everything. And he played the shit out of that record. He blew Washington out, man. And MMR was another station, I think, and that's Philadelphia. But another station in Washington, D.C. at that time. I can't remember what it was, but it was some rock type station. And they didn't want to particularly play it. It was kind of top 40, sorry. But that FM station that Barry Richards had reached all over that area.
Right.
And he was the one who broke that record in that market. And then when they got ready to play down there, he was the one that more or less emceed the concert.
Did you go to that show? Or?
I don't remember if I went to the show or not, but I remember it was a show down and Led Zeppelin did a show in that area. I don't know if it was Gaithersburg or either it wasn't Bethesda. Was Bethesda? Is that in the same area? One of those places that I went to a show with Zeppelin in there.
Yeah, I guess the show was.
What show? Do you know the date and where?
Well, it was the date that's in question is it was January 20th, 1969.
Well, you know who would know all that, man? Richard Cole keeps record of all that stuff. He still got the itineraries and stuff.
He does?
I'm sure he does.
He didn't, because I did talk to Richard. I had email with it. Richard
what
Cole.
did he say?
He said that it didn't happen. He doesn't have any recollection of it.
Yeah, well, he would know.
But Richard Cole...
Did he play anywhere in the Washington, D.C. area?
Well, yes. They played this concert, allegedly, in this small gymnasium called the Wheaton Youth Center.
Man, I remember something about that. I swear, Wheaton. I remember something about Wheaton. I remember playing somewhere in Wheaton. I'm telling you. They played somewhere. It might not have been a paid gig. Was it a paid gig?
Well, yeah, they were charging admission, and apparently, according to Richard...
Who promoted the gig?
Barry Richards.
That's what I mean.
Apparently, that's what he says. But see, nobody has any concrete proof.
Well, Barry say he promoted it?
Yes. But the people who ran the center says
he didn't.
It didn't happen. Barry's associate said it didn't happen.
Well, if it didn't happen, it didn't happen.
Well, but the thing is that a lot of people see there's the confusion with the New Yardbirds. People thought maybe it was the New Yardbirds, or people didn't really know because January 20th, the album had come out. I guess the thing is, would you? Here's like this is what I've got a picture of the youth center here. And I don't know if that would.
It definitely don't look, brother. It doesn't bring back no memory to me.
Yeah, I mean.
Believe me, man, that's so long ago, and all the pot we were smoking, like, hey, no telling what was. You couldn't remember, but I don't remember that. But Wheaton, I remember Wheaton, Maryland. I remember that name, Wheaton, Maryland, man.
Really?
Yeah, I remember Wheaton, Maryland. I don't know if it was a gig done there or not, but I remember.
Here, if you go through this, you might, if you advance through that.
Right. Wheaton Community Center, yeah.
I mean, if you advance that,
Where's the stage entrance at?
Well, that's what the building looks like, and then there's the gymnasium.
Yeah, I don't remember seeing them playing in no gymnasium.
Really? Mm-mm. Do you remember Richard Cole complaining about like a really low-paying show? Because apparently they drew so few people there that they couldn't even get gas money to get to their next gig.
Well, they ain't drew no few people nowhere on that first tour.
Really?
No. Nowhere on the first. I told you I did advanced airplay on that. That first tour, everywhere they played was sold out. It might have been a small place, but it was sold out.
Because this show was on, believe it or not, on the night of Richard Nixon's inauguration. And not that would have any bearing on necessarily, but there was certainly a lot of activity like going on. Mm-hmm. See here, that's what the gym still looks like. That
still like that.
It looks like that, and
they would be playing on stage, wouldn't they?
Well, that's what you'd think. Some people say they played on the floor, but this is the building. It still looks the same. Yeah. Now, Richard Cole in his book about the Led Zeppelin, and that he says their lowest paying gig on that tour was $200. but he doesn't say where it is.
$200. Led Zeppelin got $200.
Right.
No.
Really?
Hell no. Not on that tour. Not on the man. Frank Barcelona would never book no tour for $200.
Well, that's a good point.
First of all,
yeah,
I know that.
Yeah.
You got to give an advance. If they being booked by Frank Barcelona, nowhere in the hell they gonna make $200. I'm just telling you, that's just out. Not after that record was out. The Yardbirds might have made that. You understand?
Right, because the next night, see, and what's weird, they were playing in Detroit. Do you remember the Detroit show, the Grandy Ballroom?
I remember Grandy Ballroom.
Okay, because they were in Detroit for 3 nights, like January.
Of '69,
yeah,
I wasn't with them, but I didn't go to Detroit for sure.
You didn't go to Detroit?
No, I didn't go to Detroit.
That was January 17th to the 19th.
No, I definitely didn't go to Detroit, no.
And then it would be 530 miles, 9 to 10 hours to Wheaton, Maryland, outside of Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
You know, and that would be the next night, which is January 20th, which is Richard Nixon's inauguration.
Now, what the hell they going to fly to somewhere to do a $200 gig? That doesn't make any sense.
Well, why? I mean, because were they flying or weren't they driving around?
No, they might have been driving. I don't know how, because I wasn't with. I know I never rode in no truck with no band. No, brother. When I was with Led Zeppelin, they flew commercial when I first did them.
Because they went from, because the 20th they were in Wheaton allegedly, and then the next night they were in Pittsburgh at the place called the Hunt Armory, and there they were actually billed as the New Yardbirds.
Well, that could have been before the album came out then, because they wouldn't bill them as New Yardbirds after Led Zeppelin came out.
Right.
This was before the album came out, man. It had to be. It had to be before the album came out.
Yeah, well, I know that, but then after, what happened was the next gig was the series picked up at Boston at the Boston Tea Party, January 23rd to the 26th.
Well, I went to the Tea Party when they was Led Zeppelin.
Right.
I went to see them there. The first gig they played Led Zeppelin, I was there, and they blew the place away. And they played more than one night.
Yeah, it says they were there that's 4 nights.
That's what I'm trying to say. That's what I know. I remember that. Now I can't tell you what day it was, but I know because Boston was like outrageous, man. They blew that place away, and we sold so many records in Boston behind that show. Don Law was a promoter up there for the Tea Party, you know.
Yeah, I don't. Like, I guess finding like a concrete answer might be elusive. If Richard says it doesn't happen.
Yeah, if Richard said it didn't happen, it didn't happen because he was a tour manager, and his memory is pretty good, man. He tell me stuff that I had forgot about it. You know, he remembers everything. He remember because I remember I was with him on a tour, and we was in Arizona, and we all went horseback riding, and I was riding, me and all the band was on horse. Everybody, and my horse, because I was a black guy, the guy gave me the craziest horse, you know. I said, look, man, don't give me no crazy horse. So the old cowboy said, we're going to give you one we give to the kids. I said, cool. He gave me the craziest fucking horse. So I'm riding the fucking horse, and all of a sudden, man, the horse took off and started, a snake a rattlesnake, right? The horse took off, man, started running. And I said, shit, I got to get off of this horse, you know, because he's getting ready to run down the cliff. I might kill him. So I jumped off right into a briar patch, one of those cactus beds. And, man, the band had a gig that night, and I had to go to the hospital. And Rich remembered all that. They was pulling, cactus was popping out of my ass for weeks after that. You know, they pulled, I had to lay up in the hospital. I couldn't even go to the show. The show was almost over by the time I got out of the hospital. And Richard, reminded me of all that. That was we stayed in Flax. We stayed at the, I forget where it is, Biltmore Hotel.
Yeah, I guess, because Barry actually says that you were key in setting up the show.
Yeah, well, I might have set up a promotional show. That might have been a promotion show, man. If I set it up with Barry, it could have been a promotion. That they were doing a promotion show. That could have been that, because nowhere in the hell if I set it up, it wasn't through Frank Barcelona. You understand?
Yeah.
Because I set it up, it didn't go through the agency. And they had a day off, and they went over to play, you know, more or less because it's a disc jockey. That's the only reason why it could be.
Did that happen often?
Sometime, but not. I don't remember it happening with Led Zeppelin. I know I did it with a lot of bands. I might have did it with Led Zeppelin at the beginning, but I don't remember it. But I remember I did one with Taste like that band Taste out of Ireland. And I did a whole bunch of it. I did Allman Brothers like that. And a whole bunch of bands, you know, just...
They were like, had an off night, and you had a DJ.
Yeah, they needed the promotion in that area. So they was on the road, and they going by that, they got a day in between, you know what I'm saying? Like if you going from Philadelphia to New York, and going from Washington to New York, you play Philadelphia on a day off, so stuff like that, and you would play like a promotional gig.
Yeah, I guess if it's a promotional gig, then that seems
no
logical.
money would be made
because also they didn't know where Wheaton was. I don't think. I mean, somebody would have to drive there.
Nobody would make it. That's not a market. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it had to be something that was promotional, because the market is either Washington D.C. You know.
And Premier Talent would have nothing to do with something like that.
No, hell no, not no $200 gig. The man get 10%. He gonna do a gig where he get $20. Not Frank Barcelona, man. No way. No way. Even back then, and Peter Grant too. You got to deal with Peter Grant. Peter Grant, man, was 9-10 deal. You know.
Yeah, what was that like? Did you work much with Peter Grant?
Everybody. If you work with Led Zeppelin, you work with Peter Grant and Richard Cole. If you work with Led Zeppelin, I don't care who you were. Peter Grant was Led Zeppelin. Led Zeppelin, Jimmy Page and Peter Grant was Led Zeppelin before anybody else was, you know. And then everybody else was hired later. I'm just saying that Peter was the man. He was the one that.
So would he have been on the? I guess
Peter was on the road with him. Yeah.
At that time.
Every tour he was on the road. Every tour.
And so he was
every
there.
tour.
Yeah, it's weird to think that they would. I still find it hard to believe that they would fly, but yet I guess they'd have to. Because 9 to 10 hours is conceivable.
Yeah,
but they were in station wagons or
I don't know. I don't know Led Zeppelin ever been in a station wagon. That might be, you have to ask Rich Cole, because I never rode with Led Zeppelin in a station wagon.
Well, he said, according to Barry, it was you and Jerry Greenberg who had some role in setting this.
Well, it had to be a promotional thing then. In that case, it had to be promotional, because I would have Greenberg. It had to be promotional. It wasn't no money paying thing.
Because there was no ads for it, and there was no budget.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It couldn't be. It was a promotional thing, evidently. We were trying to promote the radio station because they're playing a record, something like that, you know. Wasn't no payola back then, so you do favors for people, you know. And if you're gonna play my record, hey, we'll play this area if it's a day off, you know. Right? It's just like having a sound check, you know. It could just like, rather than have you come to the sound check, you know. So.
Yeah, apparently there were only about 50 people there.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's just like somebody come to a sound check.
Yeah.
Band might want to rehearse for a gig they're going to have the next day, and they need a place to rehearse. That could have been the rehearsal. You know, we don't know. That could have been the case. Something like that. You might consider it was a big concert. But nowhere in the hell they're going to be no concert.